The injury crisis has happened, and I want to go to Miguel first because you said it in the intro that there seems to be a lot of scaremongering, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration out there right now. People writing the season off, people saying, I knew this would happen. Talk to me. How bad is this injury crisis, and why is there such a almost such a panic amongst many Arsenal fans?
Okay. So first thing is, we already know Mikel Moreno hasn't integrated into the Arsenal team and he was already injured, right? So that's one of the injuries that everyone's talking about. Tomiyasu, we have cover for him. Jesus is back. Declan Rice is only going to miss one game. The way some people are speaking, you would think he's going to miss the City game and the next couple games. He's only going to miss one game. And Tottenham away, let's be honest, we played last year. We played quite pragmatic. We hit them on the counter. It wasn't a game where we had a lot of the ball, in my opinion, in the first place. And we could somewhat manage to beat. And I still think we could beat Tottenham with the players that we have to our availability. I think if you guys rate this team to be a title challenging team and as good as we say we are, one player getting injured, although how important Martin Odegaard is, being the captain and one of our better players, being injured, should not let the whole house of cards fall. You need to understand there's going to be injuries. Injuries are part of football. We can't sit here and have one injury and throw all our toys out the Prem and say the season's over, right off the season, the game is done. Of course you can be disappointed. Of course you can say to yourself, it's going to be tough. Of course you can feel down for a moment, but you need to pick yourself back up and say, if we say we're good as we really are, going away to Tottenham without three midfielders, we should find other ways to win. We have a strong defense, one of the best defenses in the league, and we should lean on that defense. Our attack might not be the best attack, but one thing we have Saka who can get on the counter. We have Martinelli who can get on the counter, and we can find other ways of playing. And also, some of you guys might not rate the manager, but to the people who do rate the manager, you guys are the ones that should know out of all that Mikel Arteta will find a solution and can find a solution in these kind of situations. We still have a decent squad. We still have guys like Thomas Partey, who was considered one of the best defensive midfielders just 2 years ago before we signed Declan Rice, and still is a quality player. We have guys like Jorginho. We have guys like Kai Havertz who can fill in many different positions. And with the quality of players we still have, I still believe in this team. The spine is still there. Maybe Declan Rice is out, but just replace Declan Rice with Partey and you still have a good spine of a team. We're no longer in 2020 where one player falls out and we're absolutely finished. So have some faith, believe in the team, and yeah, we'll have to talk about selections because that's going to be the next key part.
Yeah, and we'll get onto the games and how you perform in them later. I think it's later in the show. When it comes to this, Brandon, is this an injury crisis, or is that being over-egged?
Is it an injury crisis? Probably not. I mean, it depends how you look at it, Tel. I always revert back to the transfer window. You know, did Arsenal do enough? No, we didn't. Nobody can sit there and tell me that Arsenal did enough in this transfer window. At the end of the day, this is phase 5 of the 5-phase project, and that is the transfer window that Arsenal served up to us. And look at us. You know, we're all sat here, to and fro in, what we're going to do about replacing Odegaard, Mikel Moreno, you know, new player just come in, he's already out injured, Calafiori could be out injured as well. So basically, 3 injuries have pretty much decimated our squad because the squad is thin and we haven't done enough in the transfer market. And I said that after the transfer market closed, you know. It's just ironic, really, how, you know, one of the players that I said that Arsenal needed to try and find competition for was Martin Odegaard, because if Martin Odegaard gets injured, not only is he Arsenal's only creative player, but he's also the key piece to Arsenal's press. He's the one who presses from the front. So him not being there is also a big problem when you look at the way that Arsenal press as well, because Martin Odegaard is the front man of that. He's the leader, you know. So whoever comes in now has to do that same role. They have to do that same role. Again, you know, I don't totally disagree with what Egal said. We do have to find a different way of winning. I do still believe that we've got enough to go and beat Tottenham. However, it's a very sticky situation we find ourselves in because we dropped points against Brighton. If we lose against Tottenham and lose against Manchester City, which isn't inconceivable, then we could go into the next international break 8 points behind them already, and we're only 5 games in. That is how thin the margins are, right? So I understand we've got players that can occupy multiple positions. Kai Havertz should not be in the midfield. You know, at the end of the day, he's been doing a job as the number 9. I think he should remain there. And Mikel Arteta has to find a solution to this problem. But the fact and reality is, we didn't do enough in this transfer market, and that's it. You know, £20 million net spend. By the time you take into consideration the players that we let go and the players that we brought in, that is the transfer window that Arsenal served up. That, to me, stinks of a lack of ambition. That, to me, stinks of Arsenal are happy being a Champions League club, and that is it. And that stems from the owners. I don't believe it stems from the manager. I know we're going to talk about his contract situation in a little while, but, you know, I really, truly think that the owners and the hierarchy let Mikel Arteta down in this transfer window. And that's how I feel about it.
I want to throw this to Dio. With two sort of differing views there. There are a lot of gooners online that believe the squad is too thin and a couple of injuries, and it's exposed how bad the squad is. Do you echo that view?
Personally, no, I don't. I don't echo the view that the squad is what the window closes. We have 1 red card, 2 injuries, right? In any team, when you have that kind of thing, you're going to except your Chelsea with 52 players, you know, or 500 players, whatever it is, you know, any other team will suffer the same type of, you know, setback. Any other team. If you go into, so you tell me right now, if 3 players are out for City, if Bernard, if Rodri,
City have had that situation.
But then they found a way to win. So this is where, if you want to be counted as one of the best teams, this is where you have to find a way to use your squad to its strength and win. So I don't echo the sentiments of, the squad is thin. It's about every game. Now, the idea that because we don't have Odegaard, we have to still play like the way we would have played if we had Odegaard is jokes. We can play to the strength of the other players we bring in a different way to win. That's what you do as a manager. You don't say, okay, because Odegaard starts my press, I'm sure they have a plan B. If Odegaard is not in the team, they're like, okay, this is the person who starts the press. If you're not on the team, this is who starts the press. If you're not on the team, this is who starts the press. It doesn't have to be the Odegaard replacement position that starts the press. It can be started from another way. The idea that we shoehorn our team and just have that one mentality of, if they don't play that way, we're not going to win is jokes. This is a game of formation, right? This is a game where we can play to our strength. Our defense is still very good. Yes, we're lacking creativity in midfield. And I've said this about the Odegaard thing. Get Odegaard the backup. I hear you, Brandon. But what player plays as good as Odegaard that you can get as a backup? Because if you get somebody who's just narrowly as good as Odegaard, they're not going to want to be backup. They're going to want to go play somewhere else and be on the first team. If you get somebody who's as good as Odegaard 1-to-1, I'm saying you can get a different type of 10.
Do they have to be good enough, or do they just...
No, but I'm saying you can get a different profile of 10. So you can play a different way when Odegaard is out. So, for example, on the left wing, we have Martinelli with the speed and the driving our players, and then you have Leandro Trossard, more technical, slower, and play the different way. Those are 2 types of 11s that we have, right? It's 2 different profiles. They both push. We can play in different ways. So it doesn't have to be like for like, is what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying about the Odegaard position. It doesn't have to be a like for like, somebody who creates just like Odegaard. It can be a different type of 10 that we can get in that position. So we can play a different way. So yeah, so I don't echo that at all.
I hear that point. I'll come to you in a second, Brandon. Just hold that thought for us. Giuseppe, look, people that don't rate Arteta, people that don't rate this squad, people that don't rate Arsenal, whether they're rivals or Arsenal fans, this is catnip to them because this is their opportunity to say, you know, I told you I was right. Do you think people are maybe getting a little bit, though? And the side I'm most shocked with, though, are the side that are, we can win the league. You know you're going to have injury problems in the season because everybody does. The people I'm most shocked by are the Arsenal fans that are like, that's it. Season's over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God, we're in so much trouble. How have you gone from being title contenders or winning the league to having a couple of players missing? By the way, when you look at the next 4 or 5 games, take out Man City away, which, by the way, you never win at, even with your best team. You've got Spurs, who you've still got a better team than when you've got all the injuries. And then I swear you play Leicester, Southampton, and Bournemouth. Why the panic, Giuseppe?
Do you know what? Like, I do think the panic's a bit far fetched. I think some Arsenal fans are just a bit. I think because we drew with Brighton, and then it's all been like one thing after another thing after another thing. It's caused like a mass panic, like people forgetting Rice is only out for the one game, etc. And I think it's the magnitude of games. Our next 2 games, you could argue that it's Arsenal's 2 biggest away games of the season. You could throw Anfield in there, but Spurs away and City away are the 2 ones where we're like we want to win them games, even though we never beat City. After drawing last season, a lot of Arsenal fans have thought this is the year that we go there and win. Now we've got a spanner in the works of that. But for me, the panic can't be over the top. Obviously, now you're sitting on a fence, a very thin fence, because now 1 injury, 2 injuries, now that becomes a real problem. Right now, it ain't the end of the world. Like, once again, Odegaard might not play against Spurs. That's all right. We could sit back against Spurs, hit them on the counter. That's why I actually believe that in some ways, the Sterling signing hasn't been too bad on the loan signing, because I think if we play that sort of football, counter-attacking, it will fit having him in the team compared to like who we've had. So I think the Spurs game, I still expect us to beat Spurs. I'll be honest. I think with these injuries or not, hopefully, you never know. The thing is, we are all sitting back and we're sort of panicking because we know how much we want the league, right? It can go one or two ways, right? We could fall apart here and we could be like, oh my God, no, da-da-da. But if Arteta and Arsenal get through these next few games with decent points and playing still good, it swings the pendulum in the other way. For example, you get 4 points, right? The way our team is right now, we get 4 points against City and Spurs. All of a sudden, Arsenal fans are like, 1 minute, we've had these injuries. Odegaard's out. We've got 4 points. The panic will switch. We can hope. You never know what's going to happen. Arteta might have a plan. You might have a Wanyeri come through and just light it up. There's things that can happen. Obviously, we can't rely on youngsters. We can't, but sometimes this sort of thing needs to happen for sometimes someone to come in and be able to progress. I think the transfer window weren't enough. And I think that's why the panic. I think that's another reason why the panic. Because before the season started, we were sitting here and I was arguing with Dio about it. And I said, our squad is thin. Our squad's thin. We've got rid of players. I think we got rid of too many players and not brought enough in. And me and Dio were going back and forth. Dio was like, but you're saying if there's injuries, well, now we're sitting here and there are injuries. You know, so now we're sitting here and saying, hold on, we were already thinking it could be a problem. Now it might actually be a problem. But once again, I'm still sitting there calm. I'm the Odegaard one really pissed me off when it happens on international. It really annoys me. The Moreno thing was unlucky. I think it's a bit of we've been a bit unlucky as well, to be honest. The way the injuries have happened, not for happening for us. Calafiori not happening for us. Training for Moreno after he's just signed. So I think we have to just relax a bit, Arsenal fans. We need to see the games first. The Brighton result, which I think the ref decided in the end of the day with that shocking decision, although we should have still won the game, the decision was shocking. We will sit there now and say, we can't, like what Brandon said, if you lose these 2 games, all of a sudden you're 8 points behind City. That's why Arsenal fans are panicking, because they're like, bro, we could actually lose the league in the next 2 games. Not that 8 points are unattainable for the rest of the season, because the games with the next 2 games are arguably 2 of our harder games of the season, but you don't really want to do that. Definitely this. We win. I think we beat Spurs and it will be a lot calmer from the fan base. But once again, Arsenal last season against Spurs, when we played them away, we technically didn't really have a different team to what we have now. We had Odegaard and that's it. Like Rice played, but we didn't have Partey. So it's like, I'm sure we didn't have Partey, or I might be wrong actually. But regardless, we can still beat them. It's
a pretty good guess that you didn't have Partey last season. You're pretty much going to be right. I get where you're coming from. I want to